Hey, you are in for a treat today. Today we're going to be answering the question of, do you need social media? Hey, listen, to be honest with you, I was a skeptic at first and for a while, but after sitting down with Daniel Lushin from MXD Process, man, my wheels have completely changed on that. So you don't want to miss this episode. If you're thinking you might need social media, is it worth it? Is it not? You need to listen to this. This is going to be awesome. I'm Danny Gonzalez, and this is Industrial Sage.
Welcome to Industrial Sage, a free weekly video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is Industrial Sage.
All right, well, welcome back. Let's go ahead and jump into this episode. Before we do that, like always, we've got Daniel Lushin here. If you can just introduce yourself to the audience and who you guys are, MXD Process, what are you guys up to?
So my name is Daniel Lushin. I'm the marketing director for MXD Process. We're based in Louisville, Kentucky. And we are a process equipment manufacturer, and we take a kind of a three-pronged approach to how we do it. So we manufacture everything in-house in Louisville, and we have a mixing equipment side of our business, so we build industrial agitators, mixing equipment, and then a stainless steel tank shop where we build stainless steel tanks from 5 gallon to 25,000 gallon, and then a process controls like batch control systems. And we tie it all together through our process engineering and programming and all that right in our plant.
Great, awesome. So a couple questions I actually want to ask just to clarify on that. As far as your go-to-market strategies, do you guys deal primarily with distributors? Are you dealing direct? Obviously, I would think direct would imply something.
Right. Yeah, mainly direct. Okay. We're not exclusively direct.
Sure.
The company started kind of that way because we wanted to do something a little different in the industry where it was 100% distributors, suppliers, sales reps. And so we started wanting to go direct to kind of cut that out. Take the Warby Parker approach, except in an industrial scale.
Sure, yeah.
But over time, like we don't want to ignore that that's how business is done. And so we do have some sales reps, but we don't make any exclusive deals to do that.
Okay, so a little backstory for our audience who's watching or listening. So we found MXD Process, and we found Daniel through Twitter. Actually, was interesting. So noticed that you guys had a really interesting profile. It was very well done. It was very active. There's a lot of things going on, and so we thought we'd reach out and just kind of see what you guys are doing, if there's value there, and just to get an understanding of your story. And so I'd love to just to go through your story and how you guys kind of transitioned, because it's kind of interesting, like where you guys started from when you weren't doing digital marketing. What was that aha moment to where you are now? So, like, what did it look like? I think you said the company's about 8 years old or so.
That's right.
What did it give us the snapshot of what it looked like back then?
Yeah, so really it started with our CEO. He came from, he was a chemical engineer by trade, and he was a vice president of another mixing company that just did mixers. And he worked there, I don't know how long he worked there, but that's where he started to learn all the ways that the industry is lacking in marketing specifically, and ways that things could be done better, like going direct to the customer. Because one of the things that he believed was that the customer is smart enough to be able to know what they want, which I don't think a lot of companies at least don't encourage that,
Right, yeah.
And so when he parted ways with the previous company, he started, Mixer Direct was the name of the company at the time. And we just did mixing equipment, just mixers, not tanks and all that stuff. And so he wanted to take a different approach, an online first approach, which was something that had never been done in the industry. Really a customer online first approach to marketing and sales.
What did that look like? What was the landscape? You're taking it online.
Invest heavily in a website, which I would say 50% of the competitors at the time didn't even have a website.
Wow.
And you're talking 2010, so I mean that's
right.
Crazy behind, but that's the landscape of the industry. And so invested heavily in a website and in e-commerce, which was a first in the industry to be able to actually sell that stuff online. For a customer to get online and buy an industrial mixer without ever talking to a salesperson was completely new.
And having a printed catalog or whatever.
Yeah, totally. And so because the industry was old, he didn't want to just ignore that. And so we made a catalog, and they sent it out. Like the first time they blasted it out just to let people know, hey, we exist. But then after that, never did it again. And that started driving people to the website, and then invested in SEO. at first there was a company that he was paying to consult and do that. Same with AdWords, started doing AdWords. And then a couple years into it, we started seeing competitors kind of jump on board, trying to do the same thing, seeing that there's probably value there. And that's when I came on. So I got hired really to start the marketing department at now MXD Process. We've changed our name since. And so when I came on, that was where we were at. Everything was outsourced. We had an SEO company that we were working with, an AdWords company that we were working with, no social media, and we had a blog with like 2 posts or something, because someone probably told them that you needed to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I came on, I started just evaluating, trying to figure out the industry, because I didn't come from manufacturing.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what it is that we need to do, what is working, what's not working, just throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's when we started investing in social media. We brought SEO in-house. We brought AdWords in-house as well, because because of how niche our industry is, it was really hard to find partners that understood what we were doing and where the value was.
Right.
And I imagine a lot of other industrial companies experience that same thing. Most of the PPC companies or SEO companies come from e-commerce backgrounds that are wanting to sell shoes and stuff like that. And
what do you search for?
Right.
For an industrial thing? I'm looking for Big Take.
Right. Yeah. They just have no idea, which is understandable. But we knew better than they did at what we were trying to do and where the value was. So we brought all that stuff in house and started optimizing it and trying to figure out where the value was. And we were just out of the gate, just dominating our competitors in online search specifically. That was the first domino to fall. Was we just online search. We owned that, and we did that by content, a lot of content, and we still pump out a lot of content.
So what different types of form? Like what forms of content?
Yeah, I mean, back when 4 or 5 years ago, when infographics were a big deal, we jumped on that train and invested a lot to get really well done infographics that weren't just cool pictures, but actually informative.
Yeah.
And that drove a lot of leads to our website and started showing up in search results back when Google did rich snippets. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
So that's when we invested in video. We bought equipment, started shooting a lot of videos, customer videos, and internal videos, just showing process builds and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was really valuable then, because Google would rank those
search
snippets
results
in
from
there.
that.
Yeah. And then they killed that, and they don't do that anymore.
It was funny. It was like a short blip almost. It was like a year or so. And I remember they said
they were talking about it at conferences and everything, and it was a huge thing. And then all of a sudden they just killed it. And so video was still really valuable, but we just had to shift direction. So we use video now more as like a lead nurturing thing, not necessarily like a lead capturing tool.
Yeah.
So search traffic was the first one to really go, and then we hired someone to start building our social media, and I think now I haven't counted in a couple months, but I think we have a following total of around 150,000, which is by far more than
across all the different
social media channels, which is by far more than any of our competitors. And,
I would think so.
Yeah. And I think the reason there is just because people don't see that it is valuable.
Yeah.
I remember a couple years after we were doing it, we did a trade show in Germany, and I had someone from Russia that came up to our booth and was like, I follow you guys on Instagram, and he came and talked to us at our booth.
Interesting.
And they were manufacturing something in Russia. So
wow.
That global reach that you can get through, especially with social media, minimal investment. And we still to this day have not done paid advertising in social. It's something we've looked into. And I know that there probably is value there. We just haven't. It hasn't been a priority for us with the way it's going, because it's going well, and we're investing heavily in search advertising. So I think that we will at some point, but that's not where we're at right now.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
What would you say? Let's walk us through this, because the social media thing is definitely a question that comes up all the time. Should we be investing in social media? Should we be doing this or not?
Yeah.
And I think certain times yes, certain times no. It just depends on your target, where they are, and all that. But what are some examples of content that you would put up on, like Twitter?
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing, before even talking about examples of content, the one thing to remember with social media is that I think that we all forget, because we're all B2B companies, and so we think in terms of selling to a business, I'm trying to sell to a business, which is true,
right?
But the people that are buying are actual people. that are on social media, and they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They're at home at night, laying in bed, scrolling through their Instagram, just like you and me. And so that was kind of the basic was, we want to sell to these engineers, and how do we sell to them? What platforms are they on? How can we get in their mind? That kind of thing. So we did that through like remarketing and stuff like that, and we would find accounts on Instagram and Twitter that a bunch of engineers would follow, and then we would follow them, and then produce content that they would be interested in, like how beer is made, for example. We sell a lot into the brewing and distilling.
Sure.
Except we would, instead of just how beer is made with yeast and all that stuff, because they already know that, we would focus more on the equipment. So like what equipment is used with yeast propagation and things like that, so that they could see that and make the connection between what we do, what they need. And then try and get shares and likes and visits to our website from there. So it was all about finding the people where they're at, treating them like people, and then giving them equipment or content that made sense for what they did.
I love what you said. At the end of the day, maybe in B2B, you're selling to another business, but you are selling to people. And you're right. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I almost feel like the B2B shouldn't exist, because it's like we are selling business to business, but it's really B2C. You're still selling to a customer, They're just a different type of consumer, Oh,
I love it. That's awesome. Just out of curiosity, what is in your mind, your best performing social media platform, or which channel?
It's definitely Twitter. Okay. It's definitely Twitter. We get far more visits and phone calls from Twitter than we do any other channel. Facebook, at first was great, and it's just kind of gone on the decline since they made all the algorithm changes. It's totally pay to play now on Facebook, which is why we're thinking about launching some paid campaigns through there. Instagram has been really interesting for branding and community building. Not as much direct value as Twitter, but man, when we go places, the people that always come up to us that want to meet us and follow us are always people from Instagram, which is really fascinating. Didn't expect that. We built a community of welders, which really helped for finding welders for hire. Because if we don't have welders, we're out of business. And so we made a hashtag Titan Welds for our Titan Tanks brand, and started doing I think it was called Titan Tuesdays or something, where people would submit their arcs, and we would regram their stuff, and we built a huge following just initially from doing that. And so finding the people that are interested in that has really helped for branding on there, and it's a tangible way to track it instead of just I think it's going well.
Right, exactly.
Because we're not interested in hoping things are working. So,
which is it's a great segue into all right, that's awesome. You must be measuring it somehow, right? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the way that we measure that is through our marketing platform. We use HubSpot. Okay. But there's a million of them.
Never heard of it, but
right. I'm sure that they all track fairly, the same. But we track it through there. So it always starts with visits. We track engagement from the actual platform itself. One thing that we noticed, and I don't know if all the platforms are the same, but we noticed that numbers tend to be different from HubSpot, for example, will say that you had 50 shares of this one thing, but Twitter will say you had 70. So the numbers are always off. So we always try to go for those numbers specifically to the source. So for Twitter.
So you're thinking pulling it out of Twitter versus
right, because they have Twitter analytics for business and all that stuff. So we get the engagement numbers from the actual platform itself, the social media platform. But visits are always the same. And so then we track visits through our marketing platform, or you can do it through Google Analytics. So you don't have to buy a marketing platform to track this stuff. And you can track it all the way through the funnel of what pages they visited, how long they were on your site, and we can see what platforms are engaging more. Once they get to our site, are they bouncing or are they sticking around and viewing a bunch of pages, that kind of thing. And so we track it all the way through like that to whether they fill out a contact form, and we count that as a conversion.
Sure.
Because then that goes directly to the salesperson, and then from there, to a quote, it has its own conversion rate that we measure.
Right.
But contact form is a conversion, and then a phone call, and so we use a program called Call Tracking Metrics to dynamically generate phone numbers on our website. So we have our main phone number on there all the time.
Right.
But if someone visits our site from like Twitter, then they'll see a specific phone number, and then
So
if they
you can
call
track
if they
that
call
lead
that
from-
number, then we know that they came. And then when they call it, we can track that. The
Right.
sales team then puts the deal source or the lead source in the CRM, so that we can attach where they came from with their record, and then follow that all the way through.
And at that point,
all
you
the
can
way through the
generate
funnel.
reports every month,
Yeah,
every
reports.
quarter,
So
whatever.
so we
Here
can say
go.
we spent X amount of dollars on Twitter investment,
Right.
and we got this much in return.
Yeah.
And there's no lost. There's nothing lost anywhere. Especially if we just switched our website over to an HTTPS website, which we were losing traffic source
because it wasn't secure.
because it wasn't secure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a lot of not provided or direct traffic that that we didn't know where it was coming from, and we immediately as soon as we launched that, it just like disappeared.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm just curious from a CRM standpoint. So to be able to track that, what are you guys using?
So HubSpot CRM.
HubSpot CRM.
Yeah.
Okay. HubSpot.
Yeah, the way that
HubSpot
it
CRM.
integrates
Yeah.
seamlessly, and it's been really great.
That's awesome. So you're able to generate those reports and be able to go back and have that information, and that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of great information in here. To the firms, to those organizations, those companies out there saying, hey, maybe we need to be looking into social media, or they're thinking about it. What would your advice be to them, saying, hey, look at this, look at that. Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would say start with seeing what your competitors are doing, because that is a really great way to see what is working and what's not.
Yeah.
If all of your competitors are doing it and it seems like things are working, well, there's a great jumping off point.
Right. Yeah.
But then do the research and see what they're not doing well. So if they're doing a great job, they got a lot of followers, people are engaging, that's awesome. Start doing that. But then see like what the pain points are. You can reach out to their customers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean that's easy to do. You don't even have to have their phone numbers and stuff. I mean, like you can find them, see what they like, what they don't like, what kind of content are they producing that's not being shared. There's a really great tool specifically for Twitter. It's called Follower Wonk. You can plug in any Twitter account, and then for free it'll analyze it for you, and they get really granular details of those people, from demographics to when people are sharing the most online. What percentage of followers share the most. Things like that, and you can make very, very good informed decisions based off that data.
Awesome.
So yeah, I would say number one, do the competitor research and see what's working and what's not. I mean, maybe we're lucky like we were, and you're in an industry where, you went to do the competitor research and no one was doing anything.
Nobody there. Nobody out there.
And if that's the case, then it's wide open for you. But yeah, that's where I would start. And then there's tons of great resources out there, like the Moz blog. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot of great resources, and they even have an ebook if you're starting out. I mean, this is basic, but if you're starting out, they have an ebook that's like the basics of social media marketing. It kind of walks you through that, and they talk a lot about the people-to-people connection in there, and and some stuff has changed. I think now people kind of have some blindness to a lot of businesses on social media because it's just inundated.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how your stuff is going to stand out and not seem so robotic and corporate, because people just don't want to see that. Even the people that work for corporate companies, they don't want to see that. So,
right.
But I think it all starts with knowing where your competitors are, knowing where where the people in your industry are that you want to sell to, and then try and find that sweet spot of content that people care about. I mean, if you're not going to invest in putting content out there that people don't care about, then don't do it. You're just wasting your time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another question I was actually just thinking of here, as far as like the time investment in terms of not the time to do it, each tactical thing, but just saying, look, the time that it takes to building the profile, putting content, building an audience, and all that stuff. What,
I mean,
expectations on that?
I think to get started, like it's not a huge time commitment. I mean, I think that doing a solid normal work schedule for a month, like you can probably get a really good groundwork, of knowing where you should start. So doing your competitor research and all that. And you don't have to hire someone to do that. I mean, if you're, I don't know, it depends on the size of your company. But you can task someone with doing that, say take 2 hours a day of your work day and just report on this stuff. Do the research and we'll make some decisions after that. But to do it well after that, I mean, we hired a full-time person, And I think that to do it well and to get it to the point where you're seeing value from it, like you got to have someone dedicated. You know, a lot of companies, and you've probably seen this too, that want to get started in social media. You know, the CEO is like posting something every once a day or whatever, you know, and not really responding, and they're just like, well, as long as we're on Twitter, it's fine, you know. But if you want to treat it as a like legit marketing channel that's going to drive leads, I mean, I think the time commitment is a full-time job, you know, and there's plenty of talented people out there you can find to do it.
You have to engage.
You have to engage, you have to engage. If you're not, don't do it. You know, and some that's fine too. You know, I mean, if your company's at a point where that's not practical for you, like that's fine, but don't pretend to do it. You know, if you're going to do it, or don't. I don't think there's, especially now, there's just not room for the in-between, you know. But Twitter's where I would start, because it's not quite to the pay-to-play yet like Facebook is. And also you get the added search benefit of it because now tweets are being indexed in Google search.
I did not know that.
If it right now you really see it with high-profile accounts. Like if you Google a celebrity, you know, their tweets are all along the top or whatever, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But it's filtering down more and more into companies. You know, if you Google search like Nike or something, you know, the big companies' verified accounts. You know, I think that's where they started. So, but it's filtering down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This has been really interesting. There's a lot of information here. I've certainly learned a lot. You know, if any of our audience members have any questions, is there anywhere where they could reach you, or you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can just email me directly. It's Daniel.Lushin, which is my last name. I don't know if you want me to spell that.
Well, we can put it on. We can put it up. Well, actually, someone's listening. Maybe spell it.
Yeah. So it's Daniel.Lushin, LOESCHEN @MXDprocess.com. You can email me there.
Excellent. That'd be awesome. And of course, I'm going to check out all your social media channels, everything you guys got going on there. You know, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing just a wealth of information. It was, like I said, I learned a lot. So thanks.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me.
It was awesome. So there you have it. Social media, it really just kind of it's the myth of, do we really need it? Do we not? You know, and to be 100% honest with you, I learned a lot. I've definitely, after this conversation, rethinking that whole social media thing. At the end of the day, I think one of the key takeaways for me was that, you know, really at the end of the day, you're selling to people. You're not, even though it's B2B, you're selling to people. That was super insightful. So listen, thanks again so much for watching this episode. Use this, take some takeaways. They're going to jump into social media, take into some of these recommendations on what Daniel was telling us here. And feel free to be kind to us on our social media. Share us, tweet, all that good stuff. We'd love to hear. If you have any questions, reach out to us, industrialsage.com/questions. We'd love to answer them for you. Thanks for watching. I'm Danny Gonzalez, and this is Industrial Sage.